After I was reading Dom Dismas de Lasso's book that was published, Abuses in the Religious Life and Path to Healing, um, the idea came to mind maybe it would be good to do a video on, say, 50 questions you need to ask yourself if you are experiencing spiritual abuse or physical abuse, or if you are in a community, whatever type of community, monastery, lay community, etc., that is has a sect like mentality, that there is spiritual and physical abuse happening there. So I just thought I'd do some questions to pose yourself. These are not exhaustive, and if even if some of these questions you tick in your group, that doesn't mean you're actually in a monastery or group that has abuses. But it's good to know. It's good to know. It's healthy to know what to expect in a community. And let's not forget the finality of the church and of any religious group or any community. The finality is that you know God more, is to prepare you for heaven, is to bring you on that correct path of sanctification, of purification, of contemplation and unit of prayer with God, is to help you on to be a saint. That is the purpose and the finality of the church and of any community or any group in the church. So I just thought I'd take you through 50 questions, because if you ever read that book by Dom Dismas de Lassos, I did live through a community that did perpetuate spiritual abuses on the community, and this left a lot of people hurt. A lot of people have lost their faith, have left the church, don't practice the faith. And it's good to learn. It's good to learn in the church, learn from this, and so that we don't fall into the same potholes, because we ourselves could do the same thing. We ourselves have seen it. People that experience it, they go on and do the same thing. And I said, how do we stop this cycle? How do we do an examination of conscience on this? So that's why I'm just doing this video. And again, it's just to drive a discussion in the church. Some of these questions, may need more discussion, but I would recommend that people, especially bishops and religious superiors, or anybody that has any type of Catholic leadership in a community or a lay community, read Abuses in the Spiritual Life and Pathway to Healing by Dom Dismas de Lassos. Just read the book, and I'm just going to present you 50 questions that I've been compiling from that book that may help others that are going into a religious community. Anyway, God bless you. Take care, and here we go. Okay, so I'm just going to take you through 50 questions, and if some of these questions resonate with you, don't be concerned, but just ponder them, just think about them, because there is interpretation needed, and there is nuances to some of these questions. So just 50 questions when you're considering getting involved in a Catholic community, Catholic movement, Catholic monastery, congregation, order, anything. You're going to give your life to this, which is your time, your effort. You want to really be sure that what you're getting involved with is going to help you spiritually grow, so that you can be a better man or woman after this experience, so that it is fulfilling, beautiful. A beautiful flower. So I'm just going to take you through 50 questions you need to ask yourself, because we need to learn the lessons. We need to learn the lessons so that we can have healthy communities and not toxic communities, because people get hurt, and we need to avoid this going forward. So I just did, after reading Dom Dismas de Lassos's book, I did these 50 questions, and I just thought, okay, it's good for us to pose them. Anyway, the first question I'm asking people to consider is, for example, ask yourself, if you're in a community today and you're feeling there's something not right, ask yourself, how did I get into this community? How did I get here? Because knowing how you got into the community is a very good sign. Were you recruited in? Were you did somebody go out of their way to keep cultivating you, calling you, emailing you, inviting you, pressuring you, and so forth, because that's a very interesting sign. Now, if you saw a community, if you saw, say, the Sisters of Charity, Mother Teresa, and you're seeing their work and you're saying, well, I would like to do that. And that's how you entered that community. I want to do that. I would like to do what they are doing. And nobody made contact with you, and nobody forced you, and nobody came into your, but you saw that and you felt attracted to that and you went to that community. That's probably, something that the Holy Spirit has done in your life, that it came from you, and they never pressured you or never asked you or never called you or emailed you to ask you if you're coming to stay into their community. But on the other hand, if there's this excessive cultivation, emails, phone calls, chats and messages, and over a lot of focus on you to get you into the community, big red flag, big red flag. Second question, do you feel comfortable in the community, or are you anxious, depressed, or isolated? If you go into a community, it should be somewhere where you feel safe and comfortable. To allow you to grow in the spiritual life, to allow it to blossom in your spiritual life. And if you're not comfortable in a community that you're in, ask yourself, why am I not comfortable here? What are the signs? What could be happening? What are the dynamics in this community where I don't feel comfortable? Just ask the question. Now, that doesn't always mean that there's abuses going on in the community. It could just mean you're not meant to be there. It's not your vocation. Not everybody's called to be a Carthusian. It's a special vocation. Not everybody's called to be a monk or a religious or a Carmelite or so forth. So, maybe if you're not comfortable, maybe it's not your vocation. But if you are in the community a couple of years and you're still not comfortable, you've never felt comfortable there, ask yourselves, why are you still there? What are the dynamics that could be at play in that community? Third question, does the community keep secrets or ask you to keep secrets? Of course, we need to distinguish here between discretion and secrets. But, when you see that happening, major red flags. Yes, we do this, and it's it's something that the founders asked us to do, and it's a special thing. And the local bishop has approved of it, but we don't speak about it. And you ask, oh, that's okay. So do you know what? Is it okay if I talk to the bishop about? No, do you know what, Robert? I prefer you didn't talk to the bishop about this. I have a letter here that the bishop is aware of this, but please, I prefer if you kept this a secret or whatever. You'll spot these red signs. Run from that community when they start with that rhetoric. Oh, we keep secrets and this, that, and the other secrets. It's a sect, It's a clear sect, and it should red flags go up. Now, again, we have to distinguish between secrets and discretion. So say your community is thinking about founding a monastery in a new country, and you're in contact with a bishop, and you're doing the plans about maybe, okay, be discreet, just to keep the information in the community. Look, we're working on this. We're thinking about it. You may be in the process of buying property, and if you made that known, the person that's selling the property say, oh, these guys are going to buy it, so I'll fleece them for money. There's discretion and there's secrets. You know what I mean? It's just understanding the two. But when communities keep secrets, there are issues there. Does the community have secret or private vows of any sort? If you have secret or private vows of any sort, or you hear about any secret or private vows, run, leave, and go tell the bishop. Big red saying, do not do this. This is what the Legionaries of Christ, we had the vow of charity. Oh my God. And Martial used that with expertly to keep us all, in this pyramid structure. Does the community restrict access to rules or governing structures? You should have access to the rule, your constitutions, before you even enter a monastery or a community. You should know what is the rule, how you're governed, long before you enter that community. And if that community is saying, well, look, yeah, we have certain structures and rules here that you have to be fully professed to get access to them. You have to be a priest before you get out. We have special rules for priests, and we have special rules for brothers and novices. It's like you're moving through a secret organization, that the higher up you get more knowledge. Get out of there. Get out of there. The rule should apply to everybody, and it should know the structures, the governing structures, and the constitutions of the rule long before you even think of entering. And if you don't, and if you discover afterwards that there are secret structures in that organization, big red flag. In the Legionaries of Christ, we weren't even given the constitutions as novices. We were given a selective part. We weren't given the full constitutions, and we were only given them after we professed. Imagine. Yeah, because we couldn't understand. There were governing things we didn't need to know about those. Red flag, get out of there. Get out of there. That's all I'm saying. Does the community hide their finances from the members of the community? You're in a community. It's supposed to be a family. You should know how your community is financed and what the money is being used on, because they could be paying off a member of the community that left disgruntled because he was suffering abuse, and they pay him off to be quiet. You need to know that. You need to know that. You need to know what the money is being used on in your community, how it's managed, and there should be external audits, external accounts, and oversight of finances in your community. Obviously, there's depends how big your community. If you're a massive organization, like a massive congregation in the church, it's going to be a lot more difficult there, because but if you're a small new community, especially new communities, if you're small and you only have 10 members and you don't know how it's being financed and what you're being doing with the money, run. Get out of there. Get out of there. I'm sorry. Abuses happened when there's abuse of power, when there's abuses of chastity, and when there's abuses of finances, money, poverty, chastity. When you see these things being abused, power, yourself, your body, or finances, big red flags. Anyway, does the community operate under a siege persecution mentality, especially when it comes to dealing with the church? Oh yes, we are being. The church has come to do a visitation, and you need to pray now. They don't understand us. We have such a special charism. We're special, and look at we've got tons of members, and now the church wants to come in. This is a persecution from Satan. You need to pray. Blah blah blah. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it again. Kiko Arguello and the Neo-Catechumena movement standing up in front of his audience and saying, the only thing that can save the Neo-Catechumena movement is if Pope Benedict dies. I cannot understand how the church does not see the red flags, as does Dom Dismas de Lassus is saying in his book, about that mentality of persecution. Guys, it's there to see. Our group is so special that we cannot survive unless the Pope changes in the church. Red flags. Spiritual abuse. Hold on a second. You need to question here. Why is your group so special? And the founder literally driving that siege mentality. Because what that mentality does, it drives them versus us. I have to be suspicious of the church now. I have to be suspicious of the Pope. I have to be suspicious of bishops. I have to be suspicious of the rest of the church, because we have the true. Our community has the true whatever, and they don't understand us. Big red flags. I'm sorry, big red flags. Big, massive red flags. And the bigger the organization, sometimes the harder it is to see spiritual abuse. That is what happened with the Legionaries of Christ. Oh, no. They are massive. We literally had the largest, if not the largest, seminary in Rome, as far as I was aware. Seminaries, various seminaries. We were so big, we were too big to fail. And they just couldn't believe it, that it was actually that colossal what was going on. And so I'm going to use the same thing with the Neo-Catechumena movement. Hold on a second. I'm seeing in their founder traits that we saw in our movement. Does the church not realize that there is the possibility? I'm not saying he is, the possibility of spiritual abuse. He's saying things that are creating in his members a siege mentality. I did under the of Pope Benedict. Now we have a different Pope. Okay. Is this good for the community? Is this good for the church? Anyway, 8 question you need to ask yourself: is your community new? Is your community a new community? Okay, so you have a new structure. It's like a new company. People don't go and invest millions and millions and millions of dollars in new companies. Well, some people do, and then they get burnt. But when it's a new company, you do additional audits. Who are the founders? Who are the company? How long are their work? What are their qualifications? Are they able to do? They have good products, blah, blah. And you cautiously invest in a new company. That's what we do with new companies. And I work in the business world for 23 years. I know a little bit about business. So when it's something new, you cautiously invest in their founder. We saw in some new companies, this lady, she was doing this blood testing equipment, and it was supposed to be all the bees knees, and we'd have a machine that would test all the bloods and discover all these diseases. Complete fraud. She's in prison now. Her name escapes me, but I think people understand. So, okay, when you have these new groups, we have to be cautious. The church needs to do due diligence. Thank God Pope Francis has introduced measures if bishops want to found new communities, there has to be a second approval from Rome. That is good. That is healthy. I'm not saying every new group is operating with spiritual abuse or something like that, but I would ask, when a new group or congregation wants to found, what your real motives, just question the motives. And it's good to question motives. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Who is helping you? Is there good oversight? Is there good external oversight? Just saying. And again, it's just a question. Is this community new? And if it's new, how is it running? How is it running? Does your community have an almost obsessive, nearly daily focus on something that other communities don't? For example, are they overly obsessed with apparitions and private revelations, certain writings, a particular charismatic figure? If your community is talking specific, nearly daily about certain phenomenon, fringe phenomenon in the church, certain writings of particular, maybe it's not approved, maybe they are approved, but I think people understand if you're overly obsessed with an apparition, private revelation, certain writings, or a particular charismatic figure, please, we need to get down to the bread and butter of what Catholic community life should be, which is a process of sanctification. Bread and butter Catholicism is really important. And if your focus is more on other things instead of bread and butter Catholicism, big red flags, big, massive red flags for me anyway. Does your community read your private mail? Now, there used to be in older monastic traditions and older Catholic communities tradition that your mail would be read. But because we've seen so many movements that have abused people spiritually, physically, have used that to actually isolate you, to actually stop you talking to, say, a good priest that you knew, or a good religious that you knew, or your family that you love. They restrict what you say, and they restrict what you're allowed to hear. I'm sorry, nobody should be reading your private mail. Nobody. I'm sorry. Nobody should be reading your private mail. If they do not trust you to have private conversation with your family, or with a trusted priest that you may have known for many years, or your old spiritual director, or your old confessor, if they do not trust you to have those relationships, ask why. Why? Why can't I say, oh, look, I'm here in this community and I'm feeling tired all the time. I don't know why I'm feeling tired, but anyway, you should be allowed to ask. and have a normal conversation with people you trust. So no. And this Dom Dismas de Lassus talks about this. No. You're where you are, it shouldn't be controlling your access to private correspondence. Now, there's a caveat in this. If you're going into a specific community, okay, and they say this is our rule, and in our community, we're in an enclosure, it's a cloister, and you're allowed one letter to your family once a month or something like this. That they have a rule, and this rule is applied universally, and it's an ancient rule, and the church has approved this, and the bishops have approved this, and there's certain just understand the rule of life that you're walking into, and discuss that rule of life with other people. Discuss, okay, I'm going into this community, discuss it with somebody you know and trust. Say a priest or a bishop or a religious that's not of that community. Say, look, I'm going into this community. This is the rule. Do you think this is okay? Have that ability to question. So they say, yes, that rule is ancient. Say the Benedictine rule. Yes, that Benedictine rule is ancient. This is the way you live. You won't be on your phone the whole time. They might restrict internet access to a communal area, or may not have internet access at all. You might have to do paper and pen. Just have that ability to question the community you're going into. Does your community restrict or discourage you from going to confession with an outside confessor? If they do, leave. You can go to confession with whoever you like. If they say, no, you can only go to confession with this particular person. And if you say, sorry, I prefer to go with that other. And if they start creating problems for you because you're going to confession with somebody else, leave, please. Just go. Does your community call the Pope a heretic and allow this type of speech to grow? I know there's confusion in the church, and I know some people have said this, but if your community is saying that, or saying the local bishop is a heretic, or these or that, and I know there's confusion in the church, that's not healthy. That's not healthy in a community. I'm sorry. That's not healthy, because what they've done is now, okay, so he's acting that way, so we need to form our own magisterium, our own way of doing church here. You're in a cult, you're in a sect. And I know there's a lot of confusion in the church, but when you hear that type of language inside a community, that they're actually, the Pope is a heretic. I know Cardinal Muller and some people say, could the Pope be saying, okay, have a discussion on and thrash it out and understand exactly what he said. But if your community is calling the Pope a heretic, I'm sorry. Does your community use external figures to justify their existence? For example, the Pope, cardinals, various bishops, or prominent figures. This is what the Legionary of Christ used to do. They used to say, oh, look, we are approved. Here's our constitutions. It used to be drummed into us in the sense that, okay, there's no way anybody's going to question us, because look, we were approved in 1983. These constitutions, they're approved in 1983. Here's a Pope signing the approval. Here's this, here's that. And it was, the numbers and, the experts in trying to camouflage the reason why you should join the Legionaries. It's approved. The Pope's approved. Here's pictures with this. When people are shoving you that in your face, ask why. You go into a Benedictine monastery, you never see any of that. The Benedictine, a good solid Benedictine monastery, nobody says anything like, I mean, there are some, but I'm just saying there are some now, a good solid, well-established, long-established, and there are some new foundations that, okay, if need I say more? But I'm just saying Solem or something like this, so well established, or Monte Cassino or some of these places, they're not in your face using the Pope and all of these figures to justify their existence. And some new groups, they use it a lot. Do you feel free to voice criticisms without feeling worried about reprisals? if you do not feel you can voice legitimate criticisms, for example, the superior says, I think we need to, I think we need to, I don't know, for example, stop saying Compline at night. I think we need to on Thursdays and Fridays, because we've so much work to do. I think we have so much work over the next. We won't be doing Compline and Vespers for the next couple of weeks. You can do them privately when you have time to do them. And you say, no, do you know what? I think that's not a correct move, because it's our religious life. We should be praying in community. There is the rule. And you should be able to voice criticisms. And if you're not able to, if you feel like you're the black sheep in the community because you've said something, but you've made a legitimate criticism, okay, against what's going on here. If you're the black sheep, I'm just saying, if you're made to feel worried about reprisals because you're voicing concerns, I just ask, why are you being made to feel like that? I'm just saying, if your community is new, how much do you actually know about the founder? How much do you actually know about the founder? How many communities has that founder lived in? A new community founded by a new person, you should have a pristine audited track record of where that priest has been, or nun has been. Which communities has she lived in? Which seminary did she study in, or he study in? There should be complete transparency on their history. If you go into a job today, they will look on your CV, and if your CV has gaps, it raises red flags. If your founder has gaps in his CV, that you say, okay, well, you were in a seminary and you got expelled, and then you went to another seminary and you got expelled. Then you were in this diocese and they wouldn't ordain you, and then you're winding up in this diocese, and all of a sudden the new bishop. Hold on a second, guys, please. Red flags. You should be, if you have to ask questions, why? And why is this person so pushing what they're doing when objectively, people were raising red flags in their past? How did they get here? How did they get there? So how much do you actually know about the founder? Because you're going to give your life to this person, in the sense that you're going to help that founder to build up a community. You need to know who you're working with. It's different when you look at groups like the Franciscan Friars, the Renewal, which were a large group of men that said, okay, we want to live the Franciscan way in this way. And they got approval from the church. And you're not talking about one charismatic figure. You're talking about a group of men say, look, we want to live the rule that St. Francis left us in this way. That's a different, you're not talking, you can understand them, and they probably knew each other. And so just question who is this person? Who is this charismatic person that you're giving your life to? Do you actually know him? Are there many former members? Is there a negative presence of disgruntled former members? Now, if you have, and this, I'm going to call out, simple as, I'm going to say it. If you look at the Society of St. Pius X, traditional movement, and people are saying, oh, you're criticizing them, you can't voice them. I'm just going to voice something, guys, in the traditional movement. Society of St. Pius X has more former priests that have been ordained in that society. There's more former priests than there are actually priests that have remained in the society today there. That's just a reality. This is a reality check. And if you look at the discussion there, I'm just wondering, is that a healthy environment? Ask yourselves a question. And now, if you're disregarding my advice, no, Robert is anti-traditional. Robert has a grudge against the SSPX. Okay, that's fine. But I'm just saying, guys, if you're going to give your families into these movements, what scrutiny is there actually there? It's like, I mean, and this is where the SSPX are. do have a siege mentality, and I've said that before. The church is in crisis, or we're the saviors, and someday they'll thank us, and we have the true faith, and we have this, and we have that. And at the same token, you have priests that have covered up child sexual abuse. It's not just once, it's not just twice, not just 3 times. You have bishops that can't even agree to what the society actually stands for. I'm just saying, ask yourself the questions. You're going to give your life to this. Ask yourself, do you actually know the governing structures of the Society of St. Pius X? That's all I'm saying. Because, if you look at the former members, the negative presence of disgruntled former members, there's one priest in Mexico, he left the SSPX, and he blogged about his dealings with the SSPX, that he was looking for help at the formation. And that was really, truly telling. You just say, oh my God, there are systemic problems in there. There are. I'm just saying. Anyway, that's question 16. I'm saying, look, not every movement is going to have 100% happy people that leave it. Some people, will be disgruntled, maybe disgruntled, but they might be told to leave, that it's not their vocation. They might feel, oh, it was my vocation. And that can happen. That can happen. They say, well, he told me to leave, and when I felt I was called to it, but they said I wasn't. Some people just aren't called to it. So, just as I said, it's a nuanced question. Are there former members? Is there a negative presence of disgruntled former? And I just ask you to think it out a bit, And anyway, have you ever been touched in a way that made you feel in any way uncomfortable? Have you ever been touched? Know the proper boundaries that you should expect. What are the boundaries that if you're in a community with other men? Well, the proper boundaries. Okay, how your interaction with them, a handshake, a hug, when you meet them. Okay, that's you don't go around and when you're sitting down there that other men are putting their hands on your knees or on your body, constantly touching you and stuff like that. Know the proper boundaries. What are the proper boundaries that you would have with another person, especially in a community? Do they knock unexpectedly at your door at night and come in and say, oh, brother, are you ready for tomorrow? And sit down. Come here, I need to talk to you. Just sit down there in the bed and I'll sit down beside you and stuff like this. No proper boundaries. And sometimes you just have to call out what are proper boundaries. Emotionally, physically. Is you're in a community and you're a superior in the community, and then the other superior says, do you know what, after in the evening, can you come to my office because we need to talk? And and you're in there, oh, do you know what, would you like a drink here? I have some cognac here. We'll just have a drink while we're sitting down. I just need to talk to you about this project in the evening. And no, just no proper boundaries. No proper boundaries. And if you're feeling uncomfortable, what's something going on? Ask yourself, what's going on here? I'm in a religious community and the superior is sitting on the bed beside me. That's strange. Or I'm in a religious community and the superior comes in while I'm undressing. And then you're wondering, oh, why am I in this situation even? That is strange. I'm just saying no proper boundaries. And your community should have proper boundaries. It should say, look, we do not enter each other's living quarters, each other's room or cell. Unless it's an extreme circumstance, unless the brother is sick, and you will always knock before. You say, brother, can I come in? And the other brother will say, yes, you can come in. In extremes, most of the time you will not meet in another person's cell. It just doesn't happen. You respect their privacy. And if it's not respected, I'd ask you why. If you're not a member of the community yet, have you received photos, calls, or emails from the community that seem excessive? You're not in the community yet, and yet you're being bombarded. You're being groomed by them. You're being groomed. Grooming happens. They groom you to enter these places. So if you're not a member yet, have you received photos, calls, or emails from a community that seem excessive? Now, in the normal discernment process, they might email you out. They might be in contact with you and say, look, this is the program we have for new people that are coming in. You'll do a postulate, you'll do this, you'll do that. They'll have a rule and you'll follow the rule. But some new communities, they groom you. They will groom you, and just know the grooming tactics that they will have. You should want to join them. You shouldn't feel pressure to join them. And when they do this, they're pressuring you to join. Have you been pushed to join the community? For example, has anyone said to you, God said, or Jesus said to me in prayer that you should join? If you've ever heard those words from a priest or religious or anybody, that God said, or Father said, or I got in prayer that you should join this community, run. Especially when it doesn't coincide with what you're feeling. Well, I don't feel here, but he's saying maybe I should join. And no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. You should be yearning to join. You should. This is what I want to do. But when you're feeling pressure to join one of these communities where there is spiritual abuse and physical abuse or any type of abuse, and you hear them saying, God said, or Jesus said to me in prayer that you should join this community, run, just go away. Just please save yourself. Have you been encouraged to give money? And if you are wealthy, do you see undue attention or pressure placed on you? I'm sorry, but the Legions of Christ were experts at this. If you are wealthy, all the stops were pulled out. And if you were a brother from a wealthy family, you could see your family X number of times of the year, where if you were an ordinary brother, you wouldn't. I'm just saying that's what happened. Money spoke. I'll say no more. Does anyone in your community, member or superior, enter your private room without giving proper notice? Do members of your community sit on each other's beds? Simple thing. Shouldn't happen. Your bed is for you and you alone. End of story. End of story. Even when you're sick, the brother shouldn't be, he should come in, give you your meal, say how you are, and that's it. Does your community have teachings that contradict the magisterium of the church? If that's the case, you need to really seriously rethink what you're in. Because what's going to happen is, so going back to that question, does your community have teachings that contradict the magisterium of the church? And I know there are several groups out there, and I'm going to say it, the Society of St. Pius X, their views on how their views on the Mass, that you should never go to, They even don't allow their members to go to, say, to fraternities of St. Peter's Mass. They won't even recommend it. So, they only want people to go to their Mass. And the more I think about it, and I have thought about it, just look at it objectively. If the Opus Dei said to their members, only go to Masses that Opus Dei priests are celebrating and do not go to any other Mass, or Kiko Arguello, prime example, Kiko Arguello controlling their communities by making sure that their members are only going to their missa and their community masses, their small masses. And I'm nothing against that, but there are red flags there. I'm just saying, just ask the question, just wondering, does your community break canon law and keep this a secret? Which, the Legions of Christ didn't follow canon law in certain areas, which came out during the investigation. Does your community force you to get undressed in public? This is a tricky one. Does your community force you to get undressed in public? This can be subtle in how they do it. So I heard of a certain community saying, a certain community that had communal showers, and for men in a male community, a men's community that had communal showers. And one of the brothers said, "Oh, do you know, I'm not comfortable getting undressed and showering in communal showers." And they said, "Oh, you're not a man. You're not this." The spiritual abuse, very, very subtle. "Oh, this is normal. So you're not normal." I'm sorry. Or they take you swimming and said, "And you're not. I don't like swimming." And they said, "Oh no, everybody has to go swimming. You can't be on your own. Just think about that question again. Are you forced to do that? Because if you are, just beware of the red flags. You should never be forced, ever, to get undressed in public, ever, in front of others. Never. Zero. Should not happen. And if it's happening, I'm just saying there are red flags that you need to raise there. You need to think, does your community restrict you access to doctors and other professionals? So say you're going into a community and you've dealt with a doctor for 10 years that you know well, and you said, "Look, I'm this doctor, he's my first cousin. I trust him. I've always trusted him. Do you know what? He's going to continue helping me with, say you have a peanut allergy or whatever." And you say, "Look, I'm going to continue working with my first cousin. He's a doctor. I've trust him. He's a medical professional. Is that okay?" And he's not going to charge me anything. Now, if your community says, "No, no, no, sorry, you're only going to work with our doctors and our medical professionals," I would just ask why. Why? No, just ask why. It should be a red flag there. Anyway, do members of your community seek you out for private conversations at strange times? "Brother, I'm going to meet you, do you know, at 11 o'clock. Do you know, if you can just come to the back of the kitchen, I just want to talk to you." Do they seek you out for private conversations at strange times? If you are a new community, are you able to question and challenge the founder? If you're not able to question and challenge the founder about a legitimate question, without you being felt, okay, there's reasons for reprisals, then there's something seriously wrong, because that's what happened in the Legions of Christ. Anybody that challenged Father Martial in a serious way, in a public way, was gone, and then they made up a fake reason why they left. When people leave the community, are you allowed to follow up and contact them? Now, okay, that's a nuanced question, but say you're with somebody for 10 years and all of a sudden they leave the community. You should be able to follow up with them. You should be able to have a conversation with them. Maybe they left religious life because, look, they really felt called to marriage. And they can openly say, "Look, I liked religious life. I loved the community, but I just felt I was called to be a married man." That was it. Simple things. You should be able to, there should be communication with because otherwise it's a way that they will control. This is a kind of a prime example how sects and cults and stuff, they control their members by cutting off contact with people that were part of them. Literally not being able to follow up. Now, some people that leave the move, they may not want to be followed up. They may say, "Look, I'm going and I don't want you to contact me. I'm just going to live my own life." That's okay. But, if there's a blanket rule that you can't follow up and contact people that have left the community, I would ask why. Does the community use numbers to justify that they have fruits? I mean, that's a tricky question. Sometimes a large group, having a large community is a sign of good fruits. But when you have an overemphasis on, "Oh, look, God must be working here. Look at all the people the members that we have here in it. This is truly from God," because the Legion used to use that. Other groups in the church, they used to say the same thing. And by the same analogy, you could say the Pentecostals that have millions of people, or the Baptists, their fruit from, look, there's millions of there. So look, Muslims, that's numbers. Just be careful with that equation when trying to justify your group. Numbers, fruits don't. You'll know the tree by its fruits. And yes, a fig tree will have a limited amount of fruits. One thing which, does the fruit taste right? Not just by the quantity of it. If you are having a visitation or audit, are you coached as to how to respond and what to say? Major red flag. If you're having a church visitation, are you coached by superiors on what to say? So say they take you in, so look, the bishop has sent a visitation next week, and just so you're aware, this is the questions you maybe ask, and do you have any concerns, or what do you think you would say? If they're doing pre-rehearsals to visitations or pre-rehearsals to audits, I don't care. Just leave that community. Really, really, just leave them. Have you ever been asked to lie under the guise of doing a greater good? For example, inventing false reasons as why a member left, financial reports. You shouldn't be asked to lie. A religious community should not sever your connection to the truth. And this can be very, 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 very subtle. Very, subtle. See, the problem is people in cults and people experiencing spiritual abuse or physical abuse, oftentimes they don't know that they're actually in the midst of this. That's why you have to think of these questions and audit yourself. Have you ever been asked to lie? Is the superior head of the community controlled by someone in the community who seems to have excessive power or control? The linchpin is in Dom Dismas's book. So just think, is there somebody is the superior under undue control by one person? Because they could be having a relationship with that person as well. Does your community restrict access to mail and internet just for some members? So you're in a community and you see some members have free access and other members don't. And the rule is X. So, you need, it should be applied equally to all. And if it's not, you should ask why. You should ask why. That, okay, this brother is so special, he can have a laptop in his room because he's doing a project. No. There should be uniformity. You should all agree on the rule and all live the rule. As I'm saying, there may be monasteries that have decided not to have internet access at all in their monastery, and nobody has, and that could be their rule, and that's it. That's fine. At least you can have been able to send a letter. But just understand it and talk it out with other people that know the community, other people you trust. Just talk it out. Just get an understanding. It's a nuanced question. Does your community ever say to you that you will go to hell if you left because you would be failing to do God's will? If they ever use that, oh no, Robert, brother, I think when you come to the end of your life in the last judgment, you'll be judged because you left this community or you did this. That's a major red flag. That's a lot of control that people have over. Is there a culture of exceptions? Okay, so is there a culture of exceptions in your movement? Have you a rule of poverty, yet the superior has a Mercedes and lives in an apartment and does not reflect what the rest of the community does? Is there a culture of exceptions? So you have a rule, but you have tons of exceptions, and you have nearly everybody doing different things. I just ask why. Are you always hungry? It's good. Fasting is good. You might have a day of fasting, but if you're always hungry, it's a bad sign. Just saying. Are you always tired? Very bad sign. Because if you're always hungry and always tired, these things, the communities can use them to manipulate you. They weaken you. That's psychological torture, you weaken somebody if you're always hungry or always tired. Are the words of the founder superior, the defining truth for everyone. In the Legions of Christ, it was Nuestro Padre dijo, and it was almost like God said when our Father, Nuestro Padre, as they used to call him, said, Nuestro Padre dijo. So are the words of the founder superior the defining truth for everyone? It's like when the superior talks, it's like God is talking to you. And you can't question or can't say anything. I would ask the question, hey, hold on a second here, what's going on here? That even of course, obedience is very important, and we obey, we obey our superior, because the superior will have to manage the community, and he might say, okay, you might ask him, look, I want to found this apostolate, or I want to do that apostolate, or I want to go to a certain mass, and the superior will need to manage resources, and he might say, well, hold on a second, you want to do this, but you're doing this, and this. I don't think it's healthy for you that you're doing so much work. Just be cautious, brother or father. You need to be careful here that you're not overworking yourself, and I need you to not do so much work, and he might divvy out the work. He might say, brother, I want you to go to this community, I want you to do this, but of course there is obedience, and you have to work with your superiors and understand, okay, the superior is giving you an order that matches the rule of your community. So he may say you can work in any of the houses. He may say that, and he may move you from somewhere where you were very happy to somewhere you're not going to be as happy, different country. He may do that, and that's okay. But it's just understanding the balance. But when, say, the founder says blah blah blah, yeah, I don't know, the defining rule is we don't question the founder or the superior at all. We don't question him at all. Then just major red flag. Is there a tyranny of uniformity? This will manifest when the community makes you feel uncomfortable when you don't agree. There is intimidation. So is there a tyranny of uniformity? For example, you all have to shave your heads, and nobody's allowed to grow a beard, or there's there's this uniform. Oh, brother, there's this. There could be a tyranny, and it can manifest in different ways. And that's dangerous, because there is diversity in a community, and those diversities aren't bad. Good diversity, and not the bad diversity. And you could expand out on that question more. Is all criticism forbidden? If all criticism is forbidden, and you can't voice opinions, and you're made feel anxious, or you're made feel just depressed, ask why. Does your community stop you from talking or visiting your family and friends? Big red flag. Now, there are certain communities, like the Chinakalo community, which does ask you to cut ties with your friends, but that could be because that community, okay, your friends sometimes are the people that are enabling you to be an addict. Simple as, you're an addict, you've gone through a cycle of addiction, and you go into a Chinakalo community, and they'll say, look, in here we don't allow you to have a phone. Nobody has a phone, and we don't allow you to contact your old life. But it's a 3-year, it's a set program. It's a 3-year, could be 1 year, or they'll ask you for, it's a set number of years. And it's understandable there why they're asking you to do this. They're asking you to break your cycles of addictions, and it's got a specific aim. But like, if you're going into a religious community, where you're going to give your whole life, you're not going to give a couple of years. You're going to give your whole life, and they're stopping you visiting your family and friends. Ask why. Now, if you're going into a Carmelite enclosed convent, they'll say, look, this is the rule. This is the rule, and do you accept this? So there is distinctions there, but just be aware. Does your community stage manage its image to the outside world? I mean, I mean, every family does this in a little bit. We all protect ourselves. When they come around, we clean the house. When they're not here, we live in a different way. But when it's overly stage managed, the image to the outside world, I would ask why. Are medications controlled correctly and correctly prescribed only by external audited medical professionals? I have seen religious communities where the superior would give sleeping pills to some of their members, and this can happen in female communities. That's a big red flag. You can actually end up with some people being addicted to certain medication that has been fed to them by their superiors. Oh, I'm trouble sleeping and this, and I'm feeling depressed. Oh, it's okay. Here, try one of these sleeping pills that I have. And then a new superior comes in and they find that a member of the community is addicted to some medication. And they said, well, why are you taking this? Well, the previous superior used to give it to me. I said, no, that's not right. You need to go to a doctor. You need to get external advice here. So our medications controlled correctly and correctly prescribed only by external audit medical professionals. Case in point is that Carmelite monastery in the US, and trials are up in airs that the bishop has stepped in, but like their control of medication was alarming. Simple as. Do you understand the limits of obedience? That could be a whole discussion, the limits and how you are to obey in a community. Does your movement ask you to be disobedient to the church in a subtle way? Do they? And you have to ask why. Disobedient to bishops, disobedient to the church, because it's a prime thing. It's how sects operate. They cut you off, they isolate you, and they keep you in their group. Does your movement have excessive assesses and bodily penances? Oh yes, we only sleep 3 hours a night, and we only have one meal a day, and because we're fighting the devil and all this. Big red flags. Does the founder or priest or member of the community ever say to you they are the vessel of the Holy Spirit, or true vessel of the Holy Spirit? Or does your community promote someone they say is a vessel of the Holy Spirit? So again, does the founder or priest or member of the community ever say they are vessel of the Holy Spirit, or true vessel of the Holy Spirit? Or does your community promote someone they say is a vessel of the Holy Spirit? Run away. Run away. Especially when somebody says, I am the true vessel of the Holy Spirit. I'm sorry. Good luck with you. I have enough vessels of the Holy Spirit in my life. And there are people that have charismatic gifts, no doubt about it. And those that have really charismatic gifts don't go out making a big deal about the fact that they have charismatic gifts. It's just evident. It's just evident. And when you have these people that are true vessels of the Holy Spirit and at the same time looking for money, run away. Get out of there. Those that have true charismatic gifts could not care less about money and finances and upkeep and so forth. So just get out of there. Does your community break confidentiality? Major warning sign. Especially about if you've said something in confidence, in spiritual direction, and they break confidentiality, major warning sign. Does your community claim authority over your conscience? Abusive use of the divine authority. If, and I'm encouraging people to read Dom Dismas Delasis's book. And lastly, are you told not to look at this video? Oh no, that Robert Nugent, that video, he's an ultra trad, he's this, he's an ex-legionary of Christ, he's the other thing. Okay, that may be the case, but I'm making some valid points here about spiritual abuse and physical abuse in monasteries. And, I don't think I've said anything controversial here. And again, maybe I don't have it all correct. I would just pose these questions, and they're legitimate questions to pose in any community, especially traditional communities. Oh, my traditional community is this, and It is the true church. God, the Holy Spirit has completely abandoned that post-conciliar church, and they're all heretics. They're all evil. The Pope's a heretic, and there's been no true Pope since Pius XII. But our group is a true group. Our people have contacted me that have gone to sede vacante seminaries that have been sexually abused. Yet nobody wants to talk about it. And you say it, oh no, that would never happen. That doesn't happen. No. You've got an agenda, Robert, bringing up that. You've got an agenda. Sorry. Traditional groups, I don't care which group you are. Nobody's exempt from being deformed. Nobody. That's why we need the church, and it's in the church that we have scrutiny and we can reform. Anyway, these are just some points. They're long, went on longer than I expected, but I think it's worth it. 50 questions you need to ask if you're in if you're possibly experiencing spiritual abuse. Possibly. I'm not saying always. And maybe no harm to buy Dom Dismas de Lassus's book, read it, and actually discuss that in your community. If your community is healthy, they will like that book, and they will say, look, Dom Dismas has written this book. Can we read through it? Is there anything in here that we are doing wrong? Could we be off track? Self-examination is good. If a community is healthy, they'll promote self-examination. They'll promote healthy development, healthy discussion, healthy dialogue. If your community is suffering spiritual abuse, they won't want to do this. They won't want to do this, you know. Anyway, that's it. God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.